Preface. mynovabooks presents The Forgotten Female Pharaohs of Egypt by Aminah Sarifet. This nonfiction educational tour invites viewers to explore how archaeology, inscriptions, and modern forensic tools help us read the silences left by women who wore the crown. Join us for an evidence-based journey into monuments, palimpsests, and the politics of memory that reshapes questions of gender and authority in ancient Egypt. To explore more, please visit mynovabooks.com. The following voice will narrate your audiobook experience.
Hi, I'm Mohammed Hassan. I will be the narrator for this story.
Now sit back and enjoy. Now reading The Forgotten Female Pharaohs of Egypt.
In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh embodied far more than political authority. The king was the human link to the gods, guardian of Maat, cosmic balance, and the figure whose body, titles, and rituals preserved order in both earthly and divine realms. Because Egyptian kingship was imagined through a deeply masculine lens, son of Ra, the male body shown in temple scenes, the unbroken chain of fathers and sons, female rule was exceptional. Yet a handful of women did rise to the throne: Sobenefru, Hatshepsut, Tusret. They used the same crowns, cartouches, and sacred language as male kings, even as their presence strained tradition. Their stories matter because they show both how flexible and how fragile the institution of kingship could be, and how later rulers tried to erase traces of women who had once worn the double crown. Cross-museum cases and temple walls, fragments of their reigns survive. A female torso paired with a king's kilt, Hatshepsut's face hammered from reliefs, and the faint, plastered over cartouches of Tusret deep in the Valley of the Kings. These scars reveal that the forgetting of female pharaohs was intentional. Political rivalry, gendered ideology, and centuries of historical editing converged to thin their presence in the record. What remains is a mosaic of damage, survival, and renewed discovery. 3 portraits of forgotten pharaohs: Hatshepsut, regent, king, and target of erasure. Hatshepsut, born in the 18th dynasty, first held traditional titles: king's daughter and great royal wife. When her husband, Thutmose II, died, she governed as regent for the child king Thutmose III. Gradually, she crossed a political threshold by adopting full pharaonic titulary as Matkare, king of Upper and Lower Egypt. She built like a sovereign. Granite obelisks at Karnak and the magnificent terraces of Deir el-Bahri, where reliefs celebrated her divine birth and successful expedition to Punt. Her iconography shifted to match her authority. Early depictions show her as a queen. Later ones present her as a male king, broad-chested, kilted, and bearded, while inscriptions sometimes preserved feminine grammar. Hatshepsut did not abandon gender entirely. She reinterpreted kingship so that a woman could inhabit it without shattering its ideological core. Decades after her death, someone, likely under the reign of Thutmose III, ordered a systematic campaign of erasure. Her images were hammered out, her cartouches effaced, and many of her statues deliberately buried. King lists leap over her reign entirely. The motive: to reassert a clean, masculine succession and eliminate the precedent she set. Her prosperous rule had to be written out so a more comfortable story could be told. Sobekneferu, first confirmed female pharaoh, 5 centuries before Hatshepsut. Sobeknefru ruled at the end of the Middle Kingdom's illustrious 12th dynasty, likely the daughter of Amenemhat III. She inherited a stable realm transformed by irrigation and monumental building. Her brief predecessor, Amenemhat IV, died without a strong heir, and Sobeknefru, positioned by birth and experience, took the throne. Her titulary blends masculinity and femininity. A feminine Horus name, Merit Re, beloved of Re, paired with a throne name, Kasobek Re, framed by the formula, King of Upper and Lower Egypt. Statues show her wearing both a woman's dress and the male king's kilt. She completed projects initiated by Amenemhat III, and her seals circulated widely through the bureaucracy. Her recorded reign, 3 years, 10 months, 24 days, was short. She died without an heir, and with her, the 12th dynasty ended. What followed was a long period of fragmented rule under the 13th dynasty. Later Egyptians remembered that shift as decline. In that narrative, Sobeknefru became a threshold figure, acknowledged in some lists, bypassed in others, not violently erased, but overshadowed by dynastic collapse. Tuzret, last pharaoh of the 19th dynasty. At the close of the 19th dynasty, Egypt again faced instability. After Seti II died, his stepson Siptah became king, and Tuzret ruled as regent. After Siptah's death, she adopted full pharaonic status, taking the throne name Sitra Meriamun, and appearing in royal regalia, sometimes feminine, sometimes traditionally male. Her brief reign unfolded amid political struggle, including conflict with the influential official Bey. Within a few years, Setnakta seized power and founded the 20th dynasty. Tuzret's tomb, KV14, became a palimpsest reflecting that regime change. Its earliest decoration celebrates her passage through the afterlife. Later layers cover her name with Setnakta's, replacing her rule with his narrative of restoration. Tuzret thus became a footnote to a dynasty's collapse, more convenient to forget than to explain. Why were these women erased? The stories of these 3 rulers reveal several overlapping forces behind their erasure. 1. Dynastic politics, rewriting the past to legitimize the present. Succession struggles often motivated deliberate historical editing. Hatshepsut blocked the clean father-to-son line that Thutmose III wanted to project. By removing her images and crediting monuments to male predecessors, he restored the illusion of uninterrupted masculine rule. Tuzret stood in the way of Setnakta's claim as a restorer king, overcarving her tomb and compressing her years into narratives of chaos strengthened his legitimacy. Sobeknefru, though not targeted directly, marked the end of a dynasty. Later lists streamlined history by reducing confusing or transitional reigns, hers included. Ancient Egypt's king lists were not neutral documents. They were political tools designed to present an untroubled lineage. Women often vanished when a seamless succession was more useful than an accurate one. 2. Gendered ideology, a female body in a male role. Egyptian kingship was theoretically open to women, but practically shaped by masculine expectations. A woman ruling as pharaoh strained ideological norms. Hatshepsut solved this by adopting male iconography. Sobeknefru used hybrid imagery, integrating femininity into pharaonic representation. Tuzret oscillated between queenly and kingly depictions. For successors steeped in the ideal of male rule, These variations became threats. Erasing or diminishing female pharaohs allowed later kings to reassert the notion that sovereign power belonged to men. 3. Mutable monuments. Erasure as a physical practice. Egyptian temples were living monuments, constantly recarved and repurposed. This made erasure relatively easy. Cartouches could be chiseled away in minutes. Statues could be recarved. Faces targeted for defacement. Stone blocks could be flipped and reused, hiding earlier inscriptions. Hatshepsut's reliefs at Karnak and Deir el-Bahri show targeted destruction. Tuzret's tomb preserves both her original decoration and Setnakte's overwriting. Sobekneferu's statues often lack heads, the part most easily removed or reused. These material habits turned ideological edits into physical scars. 4. Structural collapse and short reigns. Not all forgetting was malicious. Reigns at the edges of stability were often neglected for pragmatic reasons. Sobekneferu's rule was short and ended a dynasty. Tuzret ruled amid civil conflict and left no clear successor. Hatshepsut's prosperous reign made her a more deliberate target, but others suffered from simple archival thinning. Many male kings of the 13th dynasty also disappeared from later lists. Female rulers were especially vulnerable because their gender already placed them outside the idealized lineage. 5. Modern bias and scholarly oversight. 19th and early 20th century Egyptologists inherited both ancient damage and modern prejudice. Early scholars privileged king lists while overlooking their omissions, misattributed female titulary to male rulers, dismissed short or atypical reigns as unimportant. It took decades of excavation, improved imaging, and feminist scholarship to recognize Sobekneferu, Hatshepsut, and Tuzret as full pharaohs and not anomalies or regents. Modern research has restored their agency by treating erasures as evidence rather than absence. Recovering erased pharaohs, new tools, new frameworks. Today's technologies, 3D scanning, photogrammetry, CT imaging, satellite surveys, and AI-assisted epigraphy have made the invisible visible. Digital models reveal erased signs and reconstruct shattered statues. CT scans uncover earlier carving phases beneath later modifications. Ancient DNA and isotope analysis clarify kinship networks. Radiocarbon refinement sharpens chronologies. Remote sensing identifies buried structures that may hold new inscriptions. Digitized archives match scattered fragments across continents. Machine learning tools help recognize faint hieroglyphs or stylistic patterns. As these techniques converge with Egypt-led archaeology and feminist approaches, they restore the long-silenced voices of female pharaohs. Why these recoveries matter. Reinstating Sobekneferu, Hatshepsut, and Tuzret does more than correct a historical oversight. It reshapes how we understand power itself. Their stories show history is editable by ancient chisels or modern narratives. Absence is not neutral. It often reflects deliberate exclusion. Gender shapes memory, then and now. Critical reading of evidence reveals how societies construct legitimacy. For students and the public, these rulers offer case studies in how authority is performed, challenged, erased, and reclaimed. Their recovery encourages us to question whose stories are missing in any historical record, and why. Every battered relief or headless statue becomes an invitation. Read the damage, not just the surviving surface. In that act, we reverse the intentions of those who tried to hide these women from history. Final reflection. Restoring the narratives of Sobeknefru, Hatshepsut, and Tuzret is not an antiquarian exercise. It is a reminder that memory is shaped by power, and that power often chooses who is remembered. The ancient Egyptians used chisels and plaster. Modern societies use textbooks, monument choices, and scholarship. The dynamics are strikingly similar. By bringing these rulers back into the light, we acknowledge both their accomplishments and the forces that tried to obscure them. Their reemergence enriches our understanding of ancient Egypt and models a broader responsibility: to read historical silence as a clue, not a conclusion. In learning to recognize the scars of erasure, we learn how to build a more inclusive memory, one capable of holding every person who once stood, however brief, on the throne of history.
End of The Forgotten Female Pharaohs of Egypt. Outro.
Thank you for joining us in exploring the Forgotten Female Pharaohs of Egypt. Written by Aminah Sarifet and narrated by Muhammad Hassan. We appreciate you listening through to the end of this remarkable journey into Egypt's hidden history. For more engaging stories and unique titles, remember to visit mynovabooks.com. We hope you enjoyed this experience and look forward to having you with us for our next adventure.